episode 6 of Trev's Hockey Show here on Trev TV. I'm the Trev. If you're tuning in, if you're watching, that is too sweet. Now, this is another one of those videos where I stumbled upon other YouTubers who have done something like this. So again, I'm not stealing anybody's idea, I'm not ripping anybody off. This is just my take on it, and it's a take that I haven't seen anybody really do. They're all doing favorite North Americans, favorite Swedes, favorite Finns, favorite Czechs. For that matter, I'm doing my favorite Russians. So let's get into it. Now before I start, this is just Russians I've grown up watching. This isn't Russians of all time, because I didn't have the pleasure of watching Kharlamov. Tretiak, when I started watching hockey, was maybe a year, maybe two away from retirement. So I didn't get to watch a lot of Tretiak. I won't mention guys like Priakin, because really, he was only there for a couple years. I mean, history is on his side. He was the first Russian who was given permission to play in the NHL. But for the sake of sakes, he won't be mentioned in this. We'll give him the honorable mention, though. But having said that, let's start with the goalies. So no particular order. These are my 5 favorite Russian goalies. I'm going to start... Bet you thought I was going to say Varley to start. No, I'm going to start with Mr. Personality himself, Ilya Bryzgalov. Now, other than a Stanley Cup, he doesn't really have a lot of big awards to his name. I mean, he had a nice little career stretched out playing in Anaheim, Phoenix, Philly, Edmonton, and with Minnesota. During that time, he racked up 221 wins, 162 losses, 54 ties or overtime losses, and 34 shutouts, which equals 2.58 goals against and a .912 save percentage. Say what you will about his play. I liked him for his personality. When he can command airtime to talk about how humongous the universe is. That's the guy I want to hang out with. I want to sit down, have a couple spiced rum and cokes with him, and just shoot the shit to see what exactly the guy's about. Andrei Vasilevsky. Granted, he's only played 4 years, but if the 4 years he's played is any indication the kind of goalie he's going to be, he's going to be awesome to watch. Awesome. He's taken Tampa as far as they can go in the playoffs in these 4 years. I don't remember if it was him or Bishop they were riding when they lost to Chicago in 15. But hell of a goalie. Playing with Tampa, he's got 85 wins, 49 losses, 11 overtime losses, and 12 shutouts. So that equals a 2.61 goals against and a .917 save percentage. Now, if that's an early indication of his numbers, when he hits his stride, he's going to be amazing. Sergei Bobrovsky. Goalie Bob. That's how I initially got to know him as, was Goalie Bob. And at first I thought, okay, that's comical, it'll wear off, he won't get much support. He doesn't need the support. He is defense, all on his own. He's got 2 Vezinas to speak for that. I think he started in 2010, and he was the reason Philly got as far as the Cup, only to lose to Chicago. Seems there's a theme here, they're losing to Chicago. But in his 8 years, 218 wins, 129 losses, 36 overtime losses, and 24 shutouts. So that's a 2.44 goals against and a .920 save percentage. Goalie Bob, if I'm in need of a goalie, he's the first guy I'm calling. Evgeny Nabokov. I really enjoyed watching him when he was playing in the NHL. Granted, he had that half season in the K, which didn't work out well for him. But hey, glad he came back instead of just hanging it up and retiring. But he was a fun goalie to watch. On top of a Calder Trophy, your history will note he was the first non-North American, and the first Russian goaltender to score a goal. And I believe his was an actual shot, as opposed to just banking off somebody. I'll have to double check that. But in his career with San Jose, the New York Islanders, and Tampa Bay, 353 wins, 227 losses, 86 ties or overtime losses, and 59 shutouts. That's impressive for a Russian goalie. 59 shutouts, which equals a 2.44 goals against and a .911 save percentage. He'd be my backup if it weren't for Varley. Now, I'm a little biased with Varley. Varley is my favorite player. And a lot of it is only because we share birthdays. Granted, I'm 9 years older and he's 5 million richer. He's still my favorite player. I mean, this goes back to when I was knees deep as a Caps fan, and it broke my heart when they traded him to Colorado. I mean, essentially that's almost why I gave up being the hardcore Caps fan I was. I don't know why, but I have this thing with, my favorite player being traded, and I just give up on loyalties. I can't explain it. One day I might be able to, but right now I can't. No major awards yet, although he was nominated for a Vezina, which he lost to Tuukka Rask, which was bullshit. But in his time with Washington and Colorado, he's got 193 wins, 150 losses, 41 overtime losses, and 23 shutouts, which gives you a 2.65 goals against and a .916 save percentage. Varley's my boy. I don't see that changing anytime relatively soon. Let's move on to the players. There'll only be 15 of them. I forgot to mention this is my 20 favorite. I don't know if I forgot to mention it or if I'm just mentioning it now, but this is my 20 favorite. There'll be 15 players here. Let's start with the first real, I don't know if you want to call it a superstar, but Alexei Kovalev. He had a nice little career that played out with the New York Rangers, the Pittsburgh Penguins, Montreal Canadiens, Ottawa Senators, and Florida Panthers. And I think after his stint in Florida, he bolted to the K and played a year or two there. But this isn't based on KHL stats. I mean, you might see me mention a few KHL-related things, but I'm not basing this on KHL stats. He's won an All-Star Game MVP award. He's a Stanley Cup champ, and he was the first Russian player drafted in the first round. I believe he was 15th overall by the Rangers in the 91 draft. Same draft as Lindros. But in his time, 430 goals, 599 assists, and 1,029 points. So good to see that he was one of the first guys to really start stacking the points, for Russians anyways. Artemi Panarin. It really sucks the guy plays in Columbus now. Not necessarily because he's on a bad team. It's just, he was fun to watch with Chicago. Between him and Kane, that was magic. And I'm not doubting his abilities. He could do anything, anywhere. Really, I mean, if you missed his season in Columbus, rewind the whole thing. And I mean, he didn't really put up the same numbers he was putting up in Chicago, but he was still fun to watch. Really fun to watch. But in his 3 years, he's already won a Calder Trophy for Rookie of the Year. And here's that KHL-related bit I was telling you about. He's got a Gagarin Cup. Not a lot of guys can say they have a Gagarin Cup. But in his 3 years, 88 goals, 145 assists, 233 points. So in 3 years, if that's his 3-year total right now, oh geez, give him 5 more. See what he does in that time span. Slava Fetisov, or Fetisov for you North Americans. If it weren't for people later on in this list, I would call him your real celebrity Russian, based on the fact that there's a movie made. It's called Red Army, and it's based on basically Russian hockey, and it's pretty much narrated by Fetisov. Worth a watch if you haven't checked it out. Now, if I was to base this on international statistics and recognitions, this would be a whole nother video, and it would be Fetisov heavy. 2 gold medals, countless world championship medals, countless honors given to him by the motherland. I could go on and on it, but that's a different video for a different day. 2 Stanley Cups, and inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2001. Pretty impressive. But in his... See, I really wish he would have came over before he was 30, because his numbers would have reflected so much better. But at the same time, he really wasn't the point scorer, like most other guys on this list are. But in his time between Jersey and Detroit, 36 goals, 192 assists for 228 points. For a stay-at-home defenseman, that's still pretty good. Vladimir Tarasenko. Granted, he hasn't had any major awards to his name yet. But the guy is a scoring machine. I mean, I thought for sure for the 17-18 season he was going to give Ovechkin a run for the money for that Maurice Richard award. I thought he was going to definitely hit his 50 for the first time in his career. But I don't think it won't happen. It will. It's just a matter of when. But in the 5 years he's played in St. Louis, 178 goals, 172 assists, 350 points. Not bad for a 5-year total. Nikita Kucherov. Granted, there's another guy with no major awards to his name yet because he's only played 5 years, but god damn, did he ever come exploding out of the gate for 17-18. I mean, if it weren't for that last month where his production almost slowed right down, he probably would have won the Art Ross. But some kid named McDavid came along and screwed that all up. But in his 5 years in Tampa Bay, 147 goals, 187 assists, and 334 points. Again, another guy to keep your eyes on. Give him 5 more years, and those totals, I'm sure, will be doubled, if not more. Sergei Gonchar. Now, he was really if it weren't for Bondra, if Bondra was number 1, Gonchar was number 2 from my favorite players from the Capitals from the 90s. He was a really good puck-moving defenseman, really good stay-at-home defenseman when you needed him to be. As far as offensive defensemen went, probably your best bet to have when you need him in a clinch. Stanley Cup winner, which he won with Pittsburgh. And in his time between Washington, Boston, Pittsburgh, Ottawa, Dallas, and Montreal, he got 220 goals, 591 assists for 811 points. So not bad for a defenseman. Not bad at all. Yevgeny Kuznetsov. Now granted, he has no major awards yet, but he has only played for a couple of years. But he's on a great team to be playing on for a couple of years. As I'm recording this, Game 5 is tomorrow night. Today being Wednesday the 6th. Game 5 is on the 7th. So who knows, maybe by the time this is released, that circumstance and that situation will have changed. But in his time with Washington, in a relatively short time, 80 goals, 185 assists, 265 points. Again, fun kids to watch. He'll be one. And I guarantee you he'll be racking up good point totals along the way. Pavel Bure. The Russian Rocket, he was a fun one to watch. Oh my. When he burst out on the scene in the 91 season and just claimed the Calder for his own, and for good reason. I mean, his point totals in his first year alone basically said that, yeah, it was happening. I mean, what was it? 60 goals in his first year? Yeah, not a lot of rookies do that. Not a lot of rookies did that. He was one of them. Top of the Calder Trophy, he won 2 Maurice Richard awards for most goals in the season. He was elected to Hockey Hall of Fame in 2012, and for the first time on this list, he was voted as one of the NHL's 100 greatest players. So that's pretty impressive. In his time with Vancouver, Florida, and the New York Rangers, 437 goals, 342 assists, and 779 points. Makes a guy think what could have been if his knees didn't give out. Could have been something really good. Pavel Datsuk, the magician. Now this guy was your best option to have for defensive forwards. And I'm not just saying that because he's a Red Wing or because he's a Russian. He was that damn good. Plus, you could always count on him for the penalty kill. You can count on him for the clutch when you needed it. 4 Lady Byng trophies, 3 Frank J. Selke trophies, 2 Stanley Cups, 1 Gagarin Cup. If you remember what the Gagarin is, one of those. Plus, named one of the NHL's 100 greatest players. All spanning a career that he stayed with Detroit. Very rare that you have one guy play with one team anymore. He did it with one team the whole time. But 314 goals, 604 assists, and 918 points. See? And if you've ever seen any of his shootout goals, you'll realize why they call him the magician. Alexander Mogilny. Now here's a guy, he actually defected from the Soviet Union just to come play in the NHL, and thank goodness he did. Oh, I mean, yeah, it sucks he had to do what he had to do, but if he didn't, it might have been a terrible scene. I mean, he wasn't the greatest, but he definitely wasn't the worst. I mean, he has the Russian record for most goals in the season with 76. I believe that was for the 92-93 season. Same season, Solani scored 76 in the season. He also has a Lady Byng trophy to his name and a Stanley Cup. In his time between Buffalo, Vancouver, New Jersey, and Toronto, 473 goals, 559 assists, and 1,032 points. So he definitely made a good career out of a defection. If you're keeping count, we're into my top 5. And what better way to start off the top 5 than with the professor, Igor Larionov. Again, it's a shame he didn't come over sooner, and it's a shame this video doesn't also account for his international accolades. He was a big part of the Russian Five back in the Soviet Union. He was a big part of their gold medals when they were winning gold medals in world championships and Olympics. Oh, just a great player to watch. Even in the 90s when it was obvious he wasn't the same Igor Larionov that played in the Soviet Union, but he was still the professor. He could still make anything happen. 3 Stanley Cups to his name, as well as a Hockey Hall of Fame induction in 2008. And I believe now he's a player agent. I wouldn't mind having the professor represent me. That'd be pretty awesome. But in his time between Vancouver, San Jose, Detroit, Florida, and New Jersey, 169 goals, 475 assists, and 644 points. Again, if he came over sooner, that point total might be a little bit of a different story. Ilya Kovalchuk. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Oh, the guy. Say what you will about the guy, he'll be back. Guaranteed. And for a guy who has an exact points per game total of 1, 816 games, 816 points, you can't say anything bad. I mean, as far as his production and his talent goes, you can't say anything bad about him. He's got a Rocket Richard Award to his name, 2 Gagarin Cups, and a Gagarin Cup MVP award to his name. But again, I'm not going over KHL stats, I'm just going over NHL stats, which, with Atlanta and New Jersey, give you 417 goals, 399 assists, and 816 points. And he was the first Russian drafted first overall. Like I said, he'll be back. And I guarantee you, within a year or two, those point totals will be coming close to 1,000. Gino, Genny Malkin. Now, Hockey News, when they did this list of top 50 Russians, had him first. And if you know me, you know I'm biased. Of course, I'm not putting Gino first. Granted, I do have good reason to, but I'm not. On top of the Calder Trophy, he's got a Conn Smythe Trophy, a Hart Trophy, 2 Art Ross Trophies, a Ted Lindsay Award, and 3 Stanley Cups, all with Pittsburgh. Whether or not he was on a different team, and he didn't have Crosby as a line mate, or even as a teammate, who's to say if anything would be different, if the circumstance was different? But, again, different video, different day. But his totals in Pittsburgh, 370 goals, 560 assists, and 930 points. Still gotta give mad respect to Gino. Number 2 was not a hard choice at all. Sergei Fedorov. He was one of my top 5 players growing up. If he wasn't number 2, he was number 3. If he wasn't number 3, there was a year he was number 1. I enjoyed watching Fedorov a lot. The guy was fast. The guy could move. The guy could make the play happen when he had to. He was everything you needed. And then later on in his career, when they started, experimenting with him on defense, it just goes to show he could do it all. He could do it all. 1 Hart Trophy, 1 Lester B. Pearson Award, which was the precursor to the Ted Lindsay Award. 2 Frank J. Selke trophies, 3 Stanley Cups, a Hockey Hall of Fame induction in 2015, and one of the NHL's 100 greatest players, as well as the first Russian with 1,000 points. For your history buffs, for all you trivia quizmasters, there's your answer. For his totals with Detroit, Anaheim, Columbus, and Washington, he got 483 goals, 696 assists for 1,179 points, which at the moment of this filming is the most amongst Russian players. It won't last long. Guaranteed it won't, but that's still pretty damn impressive. I don't even need to tell you who's first on my list. I shouldn't anyway. If you know me, you know I've got a mad raging heart on for Ovi. I mean, why not? The guy's the complete package. Aside from not having that cup to his name, which could change. He can do anything you need him to do. He's the power forward. He's the scorer. He can set up the play. If you need him to go from 0 to 200 feet in a matter of seconds, he can do that. Plus, he can score goals on his ass. And he's done it a few times. Check the goal against Phoenix. You all know what I'm talking about. 1 Calder Trophy, 3 Hart Trophies, 3 Ted Lindsay Awards, an Art Ross Trophy, 7 Maurice Richard Awards, and a Gagarin Cup. And he's one of the NHL's 100 greatest players. And he's the first Russian to score 500 goals. On top of that, having said that, 607 goals, 515 assists, for a total of 1,122 points as of this moment. He's still got lots left in the tank, and I would love it to see him go not just for the all-time goals record. I'd love to see him get 2,000 points. Whether or not it could be done, I don't know. I'd love to see it happen, but we'll see. So that was episode 6 of Trev's Hockey Show. I'd like to thank you for tuning in. Always means so much to me when you do. I'm just happy you take time out of your day to listen to me talk hockey, because I really do love talking hockey. It's a fun thing to talk about. Here's hoping. My heart of hearts is hoping for it. Here's hoping episode 7 is a cup reaction video. I'm not counting chickens. I am knocking on wood. I'm only hoping for the best, because I got a jersey in the closet I've been dying to wear, but been trying not to jinx the team. But if you like this video, hit like. If you want to subscribe, hit subscribe on your way out. Recommend this to a friend. Find Trev TV on Instagram at rockstartrev TV. Find Trev TV on Facebook. And in the meantime and in between time, keep on the lookout for videos from the Trev. Later.